E-4 Media proudly brings to you E-4 Sports. Sports through the eyes of veterans. Welcome, my E-4 Mafia. You are listening to E-4 Sports. Sports through the eyes of veterans. I am the one and only JRei, along with the Ferocious Phil. We are currently 1 week into preseason. And yes, some will ask, well, what about the Hall of Fame game that happened 2 weeks ago? Well, my Mafia members, the Hall of Fame game is just an extra exhibition game for the Chicago Bears and the Baltimore Ravens, which means instead of playing 4 preseason games, they play 4 preseason games and an extra exhibition game. Now, in this game, the Bears fell 17-16. Now, there are a few things I wanted to talk about the actual game before we talk about those who were inducted into the Hall of Fame. And we're also going to talk about those who took part in the festivities in Canton. Phil, the one thing I wanted to talk about the actual game is the quarterback aspect in Baltimore. You have Joe Flacco, who, yes, he has a Super Bowl ring, but you ask anybody, he has never even been in the conversation as an elite quarterback. I don't even think he's an above average quarterback. When he won the Super Bowl, or when they even went to the Super Bowl, it was because of the defense. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed.
Defense wins championships.
Exactly. So you have Flacco, and everybody in Baltimore really sees Flacco for what he is now, an overpaid, overglorified quarterback. Then you've got Lamar Jackson, who was drafted first round, came back at the end and
number 32
swept him up. He showed some promise. The reason why I bring him up is he did show promise, and everybody thinks, oh, Flacco's done, Lamar's coming in sometime during the season. Flacco's going to start, but I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to come in, because there was a third quarterback we saw during that game who really surprised me and showed me, hey, he still has a chance for retribution in the league, and that is Mr. Robert Griffin III. He showed aspects that he can still be that good backup quarterback when needed.
I don't think RG3 is going to wind up being a very good backup quarterback. He's not. I don't think he's in line to start. The Ravens do have a nice luxury right now where they have 3 quarterbacks. Flacco is going to be Flacco. But I believe the over-under right now is 5.5 games on when Jackson takes over. And for that to happen, Flacco's going to have to just totally implode. And RG3 will be the carryover quarterback till Jackson can come in and start.
And that's
a nice luxury to have, to be able to let your rookie sit there. But is RG3 going to lead your team to the promised land? I don't think so.
No, I don't think he is. Like I said, I think he has a chance to be a great backup. And then I agree with you.
He's a solid backup.
And that's what I brought these 3 into the conversation is I don't think Lamar is just going to jump in and replace Flacco. I think you're going to have that intermediate, and that intermediate is going to be RG3 until they feel Lamar. I'm tired of seeing these teams. Yes, we are in a huge quarterback-heavy league. Because it's a big passing league. I'm liking some of the running backs coming in and trying to change that. I like that. But I'm tired of seeing these teams put these rookies in and throw them under the bus. That's why I don't believe Mayfield should be starting this year. Unless Tyrod Taylor comes in and really blows the coop or gets injured, I don't think you play Mayfield. Let him sit back. Let him learn. Yeah, Tyrod isn't the best. He's not a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady or somebody to learn under, but he still has qualities you can get. I don't think these rookies should be thrown under the bus as fast as they are. That's why they fail so fast.
Out of all the quarterbacks after the first week of exhibition, out of all the quarterbacks, I thought Mayfield actually kind of looked the best out of all of them. As far as Darnold still is showing that he has a ways to go, Rosen has not shown anything, and Josh Allen, yeah, the Bills got what they got. Yeah, I mean he has great potential. The platform where Josh Allen can get to is going to be pretty insane, but it's will he achieve it? And then then you have you got Jackson out of Louisville who's playing for the Ravens, and he looked pretty dang good, but he's still raw and he still needs some work. And I don't know that any of these guys are necessarily guys you want starting right away, but Baker Mayfield looked pretty dang good. Running the Cleveland offense, which take it for what it's worth. It's the Cleveland offense, but he has. I think Mayfield has the potential to get that offense rolling. Might get Hugh a couple more wins than he got last year.
But see, and that's the situation that I'm mentioning is you're Cleveland. You're Cleveland.
Oh, I'm not telling you they're going to make the Super Bowl.
You're Cleveland. Use the aspect of knowing that you're Cleveland and sit the boy. You're not really going to go anywhere. So use this. Let him prosper. You have Tyrod Taylor with Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry. You just got Chubb. I mean, don't throw him under the bus.
Well, but then, so you're saying that Baker should wait around for the coaching change and learn the system of the next coach?
Yes.
Because if he doesn't do anything after this season, he is. I gotta say, don't let the door hit you on the way out, buddy.
I'm surprised they're letting him stay. It's very interesting with Hugh Jackson that he is talking like he's only lost one game in his Cleveland career.
31-1 instead of 1-31.
Exactly. And so the whole team is. You got everybody coming in there and claiming, oh, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. I stupidly made $100 drunk bet.
You? You? A drunk bet? No.
Right? And saying that Cleveland was at least going to make the wild card. I'm going to lose $100. But I fell into that trap of, yes, there's good weapons there. But it is still the philosophy of Cleveland that is attached to that team.
Well, I mean, they could make the wild card.
Then I'm $100 richer, and Phil, I'll get your first drink.
I mean, yeah, they could if like every other team in the AFC North, with the exception of Pittsburgh, implodes and. Then there's not another team that goes 7-9 potentially, and I think I'm giving them credit. I think 6-10 is probably maybe more likely place where they wind up.
Yeah. All right, that's enough of talking the dumpster fire that is Cleveland.
Oh, it's a tire fire, sir. Don't forget the river caught on fire back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took that shot, Cleveland. We did take that shot, yes.
Now to get back to the Hall of Fame game in Canton. We've got to talk about the reason why there is even a Hall of Fame game, and that is because of the Hall of Fame. So let us now discuss the 2018 class of the Football Hall of Fame. The first one is Love You Blue, Houston Oilers linebacker, Robert Lorenzo Brazil, linebacker. He was drafted in the first round, 6th overall in the 1975 draft. Career stat-wise, he had 13 interceptions, He had 14 fumble recoveries. And he played a total of 147 games.
Started 147 games.
Started, correct.
And he basically never missed a game in his career.
Yes. So he has been inducted as a senior class member. Houston Chronicle's own John McClain pushed for years to get Robert Brazile in the Hall of Fame. And I was lucky enough to go to the Sports Radio 610 roast of Robert Brazile. Next, we have Bobby Beathard, who was inducted as contributor. Phil, I think you know more about this guy than I do.
A little bit. He was a major contributor. He started out playing football. He played with the Redskins, and he played with the Chargers, pretty much as a camp guy, but wound up going on to be a scout. Scouted for several teams. He started with the Kansas City Chiefs. Wound up working with Atlanta and also Miami as a scout. He was a scout for Miami with basically during their Super Bowl years back in the 70s, and helped find some of that talent. He wound up becoming a general manager, and basically influenced several teams. I mean, he was with the Redskins when they got Russ Grimm, Joe Gibbs, Art Monk. Obviously those guys helped lead the Redskins to Super Bowls. Wound up closing out his career with the Chargers and got them to a Super Bowl, and then wound up retiring. His legacy continues in San Francisco right now. He has a grandson that's a quarterback. You've probably heard of him, C.J. Beathard. But he won a lot of awards. He won a lot of championships as a general manager, and rightfully belongs in the Hall. He's got 4 rings.
Rightfully so, indeed. The next player we're going to talk about is quite interesting, and it's interesting to the fact that not only do the Philadelphia Eagles get to celebrate this whole year claiming defending champions, but they also got to celebrate one of their own. Philadelphia Eagles and Denver Broncos safety Brian Dawkins. He played for the Eagles in 1996 to 2008, and then he went to the Broncos 2009 to 2011.
An illustrious 16-year career.
Yes, you don't see that a lot.
Not the way these guys throw their bodies around,
that,
and especially as hard as
for
this
2
guy
teams.
hit.
That's another one. He only played for 2 teams. So, I mean, with free agency and all that stuff, when
you're 35, teams are going to say, yeah, your best playing days are probably behind you. He went on to prove, though, he had 3 more years in him from 36 to 38, where he played safety and cornerback for the Broncos and actually did fairly well.
Yes. He career 37 interceptions for a total of 513 yards with 2 touchdowns. That's a good career. So, Mr. Dawkins, we congratulate you.
What I want to know though is when he was with Denver, he had 3 picks, and granted 2 of them were the first year that he was with Denver, and then you had one his second year, and he didn't get any in his last year. But how do you wind up with -2 yards?
So I guess he got the ball and then pulled a Cleveland and went backwards instead of forwards.
Is that like a butt fumble?
No, it's more like you should have called timeout. And instead, you thought you were ahead.
I do not mean to disparage you, Mr. Dawkins. You were a fantastic safety, and you had a long and illustrious career.
The next inductee is Green Bay Packer offensive guard Jerry Kramer. He played from 1958 to 1968. And he is one of those players that played for the same team his whole career, which, like we said, doesn't happen very much now that free agency is around and all of that. He
played for one of the most decorated coaches in the NFL. Hell, the man the trophy's named after.
Yes,
Vince
Mr.
Lombardi.
Vince Lombardi.
And he also he actually had a couple seasons where he took over field goal duties for the Packers. And actually, the first time he did it, he was actually pretty darn good. He was 81, almost 82% on his field goals, and he was 97% on his extra points. So I'll bet you, there's still a couple teams out there that would probably consider signing him. But the fact of the matter is, Jerry Kramer was one of the best guards to ever play the game, and part of the reason that he was out of the Hall of Fame for so long was they basically said that the Packers had too many guys in the Hall of Fame from the same era when he played, and I'm sorry, if you're good, you're good. You deserve to be in the Hall. It doesn't just because you played with a bunch of other great players and you dominated the season, that should not preclude you from being included in the Hall of Fame where you belong. In fact, you could almost make an argument, if you wanted to, I think, for taking entire teams, where you have a bunch of really good players, but maybe not Hall of Fame players, and induct the entire team into the Hall. Yeah, you look back at.
That's right. You and me have talked about that, and I'm one that agrees with that, and we're gonna go through that a little bit later in the podcast. But I absolutely agree with that. The more modern inductee. Now we're gonna kind of talk about more of the modern ones, more of the ones you're more likely gonna remember, even if you've only been watching football for maybe the last decade or so and don't really know its history. With Brazil, with Kramer, and even with Dawkins. Dawkins started kind of early in '96, so we're going to start a little bit more modern in the class. And we talked about it earlier when we were talking about Joe Flacco. We're going to talk about Baltimore Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis. He started the same year that Brian Dawkins played, in 1996, and he went up until 2012. Now, Ray Lewis was a first-round pick, 26th overall by Baltimore. So, again, another player that stayed with his team his whole career.
And he was an original Raven. He was the first year the Ravens came into existence after they left Cleveland.
Yes, exactly. He ended his career with 41.5 sacks, 1,562 tackles, 19 forced fumbles. Again, Mr. Joe Flacco. You need to thank this man and kiss him on the cheek anytime you see him.
How about Trent Dilfer?
Yes.
Trent Dilfer has a ring because of this guy.
Yeah.
And the defense that was playing, because, sorry, Trent, you can, I think you would even admit that you would not have a ring if it was not for your defense that year. Because you did basically just enough to win those games because you had basically no offense and you had a great defense.
Ray Lewis also ends his career with 31 interceptions for 503 yards and 3 touchdowns. His longest interception was 64 yards.
That's a lot of distance for a big guy like that.
Yes, it is. Now, one thing I will say about Ray Lewis is he's been through a lot of shit. I'm going to say it that way. You know, I've got people that don't like Baltimore because they talk about Ray Lewis. Oh, He was accused of murder and all this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do research in the actual case. Because for one, the whole case, no one even said he had the knife. The reason that any of that happened is he went to jail because he rolled over on the two people that got into the fight in the first place and did the actual stabbing. They even claimed all he did was throw a punch and then he retreated. But you know how some cops do in interrogations. They start trying to get you to throw people under the bus, and he did. He is the only one in that scenario that got jail time because he pled to get the deal. And then even the two that did do the stabbing got acquitted for lack of evidence. So for one, Ray Lewis was in the whole situation, never held the knife, never killed the guy. It was just under that law at the time, you can be considered guilty because you were party to it because you were there.
Guilty by association.
Exactly. So, Ray Lewis, for what you've been able to do and come back from that, congratulations. His speech was 35 minutes long.
And one of the more inspirational ones, along with Dawkins.
Exactly.
Dawkins gave a very inspirational
He
speech,
did.
And so did Ray Lewis. I mean,
you can
the man really turned his life around. You look at how much he's done for that community.
And one of the things that turned his life around was God. Now, I'm not getting into religion and all that stuff, but even the speech, you can tell how close he is to his faith. He's the only one that did not use the podium. He had one of those ear mics. He had a towel in his hand, and he was walking up and down the stage like a preacher.
He knows how to work that crowd.
I mean, even the sweat, when he was done, his yellow jacket looked almost orange because of the amount of sweat. But what's even funnier is you could tell he still was wearing that wife beater underneath because you could see the sweat in all the wife beater. So,
I mean, I'll tell you what, I met Ray Lewis.
A wife beater, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I mean a tank top.
Sure. Well, what do you think? He was carrying around.
You never know what some snowflakes may think.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, I had gotten a chance to meet Ray Lewis back when he was at the University of Miami. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about an intense look on a guy. I mean, this guy, I remember him in college. I remember watching him play in college. He was fantastic. But just meeting him up close and personal, the look in this guy's eyes, it was one of determination. And there's nothing that's going to hold me back. Yeah, you knew this guy was going to wind up being a great football player. And my hat's off to you, Ray. Great job. Glad you made it into the Hall of Fame.
Way to make it to Canton. All right. Next, Mr. Kind of journeyman wide receiver. That's what it kind of turned into later on. But very prosperous wide receiver. Very well known wide receiver, Randy Moss.
Only 5 teams.
Now, Randy Moss was drafted by Minnesota in the first round, 21st overall in the 1998 draft. He played for Minnesota from 98 to 2004, then went to the Oakland Raiders, 2005 to 2006, then New England Patriots, 07 to 2010, then back to the Minnesota Vikings in 2010, then to Tennessee in 2010, then to San Francisco in 2012.
Well, he also played for New England in 2010 also.
Yes. He left them in 2010, went back to Minnesota in 2010, then went to Tennessee in 2010. So all in 1 year, he went to 3 teams.
Of course. And then, so that was a little too much for him, so he took the next season off. I mean, 3 teams in 1 year. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and we'll take a little vacation here, and then we're going to come back and play one last year in 2012 for San Fran.
And he ends his career with 982 receptions for 15,292 yards and 156 touchdowns. He also ends his career with a 2,484.4 fantasy point. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, fantasy points have now turned into career stats.
Well, let's also look at this too, though. In the playoffs, and championship style games, he had he played 8 games with Minnesota, 4 with New England, 3 with San Fran, and still wound up with almost 1,000 yards. He had 977 yards, still had 10 touchdowns, and that's not even looking. He did have a rush when he was playing with New England, wound up getting 14 yards. And yeah, those are pretty solid stats. I mean, you're talking top 5 receiving.
Yes, sir. He is in the top 5 of best wide receivers of all time. Another player I'd like to talk about, another inductee that also stayed with one team his whole career, is linebacker out of Chicago, Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher is a first ballot Hall of Famer, which very deservingly so.
Great linebacker out of New Mexico. He actually was a safety coming out of New Mexico, and they converted him into being a middle linebacker. And another great speech at the Hall. He was a very humble guy. He's very happy to have been with only one team, and he is another one of these linebackers that's just very impressive. The guy's always been a hitter. He played 182 games, had 41 and a half sacks, over 1,000 tackles for loss, and 11 forced fumbles. I mean, that's some pretty impressive stats. It's a great career. Only missed he basically didn't start 2 games out of his entire career, but 22 interceptions from a middle linebacker. / former safety. The guy's got good hands, but man, that guy epitomized the Chicago Bears tradition of middle linebacker. And you go back and you look through the years. You had George, you had Butkus, you had the Baylor Bear, Singletary. And then you got Urlacher, who just has gone down as being a fantastic, incredibly talented middle linebacker.
Oh, yeah, and you were mentioning 11 forced fumbles. And
right.
Guess what? He had 15 fumble recoveries.
Yeah.
So he pretty much was able to not only force the fumble, but he was able to recover it also.
The man was always around the ball.
Yes.
And on top of that, we also look back. He scored 2 touchdowns off of interceptions and an additional 2 touchdowns off of what he was so good at, being around the ball, fumble recoveries.
Now, he has a total of 177 yards on those 15 fumble recoveries, but here's the very interesting thing. His second year in the league, he was 23. He got 2 fumble recoveries for a total of 101 yards and 1 touchdown. His sophomore year, when everybody talks about sophomore slumps and everything, that is when this guy came into his own that year. He also had 6 sacks that year, 89 total tackles with 27 assisted.
But he regressed from his rookie year when he had 101. I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, he did have a sophomore slump. Yeah, he dropped what, 11 tackles or 12 tackles.
He did, and he lost 2 sacks.
He did pick up a couple of assists, so
he did. We'll give it to you, Brian. We'll give it to you. And lastly, now's the time to talk about one of the most controversial inductees in probably the last few decades. Well, I'm talking about a wide receiver that played for San Francisco, 96 to 2003. Played for the Eagles in 04 to 05. Played with the Cowboys 06-08. Played with the Buffalo Bills in 09. Cincinnati Bengals in 2010. The Arena League of the Allen Wranglers in 2012. And then on the practice squad of Seattle in 2012 as well. I'm talking about none other than wide receiver Terrell Owens. Now, I have been a huge defender of Terrell Owens being in the Hall of Fame. His stats put him in the top 5 wide receivers of all time to go along with Mr. Randy Moss. Do I say I think Randy Moss deserves to be above Terrell Owens? But Terrell Owens is in that conversation. That alone, to me, should have put him in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. But then we go into his behavior and personality, and it took him 3 years to get in. Now, yes, I understand that football is a team sport and that you can't put up the numbers he did without amazing teammates or from an O-line and the QB. And that he has, some may call him locker room cancer. But when you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, it is because of your individual achievements.
No.
That is the Hall of Fame. That is why, as of right now, you don't have these team wings. You have individual busts. You have individual heads, in which his achievements, he does have an abundance of. But I will definitely say I have an issue with him not attending this induction ceremony. To me, how dare you ruin the sanctity of the Hall of Fame? Now, before I let you talk, Phil, I understand that he had viable grievances of how the voting is done. And we'll go into that a little bit afterwards. But skipping it and taking the spotlight away from your fellow inductees proves to those people that talked about you being a locker room cancer, you proved them right. And that's what, to me, is absolute bullshit. His stats show he deserved to be there. He deserved to be there first ballot Hall of Fame. But his personality and everything else prevented that. So does he have grievances? Yes. Do I agree with some of those? Yes. Did he handle it bullshit wrong? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Well, first off, let's see. He played for 5 different teams, correct? And if you keep going, if every team you're a part of, you keep having the same problem over and over and over again, maybe it's time to look in the mirror and say, hey, maybe I'm part of the problem here. Maybe I need to change something up. Maybe I shouldn't be such a selfish prick. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I don't need the spotlight on me 24/7. As soon as these announcements were made, I knew damn well when he said, oh, I'm not going to attend the Hall of Fame, I knew exactly what was going on. It's Terrell Owens being a selfish prick once again and sitting there, trying to pull the puppy dog eyes and the crocodile tears going, what, me? Did I do something wrong? No, of course you did something wrong, you selfish prick. You took all the attention away from the other inductees and you tried to put it all upon yourself, just like you have in your own individual Hall of Fame party, because you don't want to attend the shrine of the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. God forbid there would be the spotlight on other people other than you. You were always a cancer at every team you went to. You played under multiple great quarterbacks. And you did one thing. You divided the locker room and you made yourself a friggin' cancer. You treated the press like shit. And all you gave a shit about was yourself. So were you a first ballot Hall of Famer? Absolutely not. You were nothing but a cancer. Did you have the stats? Absolutely. You were a fantastic athlete. Incredible athlete. You might even make a case you might even be able to get on a team at this point in your life. But because of the stigma that you've basically created and instilled upon your brand, you're nothing but a cancer. And do you belong in the Hall of Fame based on stats? Yes. Based as a teammate, and what you did to help each team that you were on? No, you did not deserve to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think you got lucky getting in on the 3rd attempt.
See, I'll disagree with that on that when you want to say what he did for the team. Yes, he opened his mouth, all that. But you go back, 2001, he had 16 touchdowns. 2002, 13 touchdowns. 2004, 14 touchdowns. He had Hell, 2007, 15 touchdowns. He had multiple double-digit touchdown years. So did he help his team by getting those touchdowns? Absolutely. Was his behavior detrimental? Absolutely.
Exactly.
So what I am saying, though, is the Hall of Fame itself.
So the touchdowns overshadow the behavior. So you can be a petulant child and act like a little spoiled shit, but you're still putting out there, so you must deal with my petulance.
No, it proves nobody wanted to deal with him. So he didn't get another job again. He had to go to the Allen Wranglers instead of playing in the NFL. Okay, I understand that. But what I am talking about is the Hall of Fame itself. It is about individual stats. What did you do in football that puts you as a legend forever? Role model? No. Stats and what you did for football? Yes. Yes, you do. You deserve to be in there.
You just shot yourself in the foot with your argument. You said, what did you do for the game of football? I was a cancer in the locker room, and I divided my teams, and I made myself such a pain in the ass to everyone on the team that they wound up getting rid of me, and I had to move on to another team.
Okay, he still has over 15,000 yards. Stat-wise, yes, he deserves to be
I'm sorry,
there.
but your
Absolutely.
behavior to the community and the game of football does come into factor here.
Okay, he did not.
So you're telling me Ted Bundy? What? So Ted Bundy should be in there?
No. See,
I mean,
no. He wasn't banned for substances. He wasn't a detriment that way in the NFL. So no, he wasn't. Was his behavior reprehensible? Absolutely. But it wasn't to the point where it destroyed the game of football.
No, he destroyed the teams that he was on. He basically took the chances that they had. He went to one Super Bowl in his entire career, and that was with Philly. And other than that, I mean, he just basically, his behavior decimated the teams. I mean, hell, he decimated the Philadelphia team. The teams that he was on with Philadelphia, I mean, who cannot get that image out of their heads of Donovan McNabb trying to walk away from this guy and be civil about it, and he's stuck on him like a freaking remora to a shark and won't let go and just wants to sit there and yak, 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 yak right in his ear while the man's trying to get away and get ready for the next series. But no, T.O.'s got to sit there and cry and whine and bitch about not getting the ball, or he's not doing this or not doing that according to him. Sorry, T.O., you're not the freaking offensive coordinator here. Let the man be. Move on. Quit acting like a little bitch.
Well, he did have, like I said, he did have some viable things. I didn't really watch his speech because I didn't really care to in Chattanooga. Didn't really care to. But I did hear some things, and he does make sense when he talks about the process of the Hall of Fame. Hold on.
This is T.O.'s mind that's speaking here,
No.
so let's keep that in.
I understand, but he can be right, and we've talked about this outside the podcast. For one, I believe you remove half of the media voters. You remove half of the journalists. I'm not saying you make the voting smaller. I say you remove them, replace the ones you did with Hall of Fame members. And coaches, ones that are actually in there, ones that wear the gold jacket, the one that you're going to be representing from now on. They should be in that voting process.
So you think maybe it should be more like the Board of Trustees for the Hall of Fame?
I think so.
Because basically the Board of Trustees is a mix of owners, players, and lay people. It's not all media.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some media folks in there, but there are also some corporate people in there.
And see, in a way, I do believe that having all the votes being media members destroyed any hope for him ever getting in first ballot, because it was the media who he always just decided to just throw up on.
Well, it wasn't just the media. I mean,
well, no.
the teammates that he, got into these little pissing contests with, also are kind of in there too.
Another thing I believe is the way that you're voted in. Stats need to be top qualifier. Top qualifier needs to be your stats. If there is a close, what?
If that's the case, then kick Joe Namath out of the Hall of Fame right now.
I agree with that.
Joe Namath is the only quarterback in the Hall of Fame. People, listen to this. Joe Namath does not belong in the Hall of Fame. First off, I mean, yeah, he made one great prediction. Yay. Yeah, he threw for a ton of yards.
But everybody makes that same prediction.
Okay, but let's look at this. How many career touchdowns and how many career interceptions does he have? He has more interceptions than he does touchdowns. He was not that good of a quarterback. He was a gunslinger, and he had the long hair, which was albeit opposite of Johnny Unitas, and it was kind of that mod and everything. So had all the young folks getting all excited about him. But Joe Namath does not belong in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. And you can. No, write me, text me, argue with me about it all you want to, but the fact of the matter is, Joe Namath does not belong in the Hall of Fame.
What is your Twitter feed, by the way?
Philip Palizzi 1.
And I am at JR with Sports. And like I was saying, stats need to be top qualifier. Then, if it's close, if you have two people trying to go in the same year and they're really close stat-wise, then you go to the use of team achievements, which in that's when it would say, oh, he had this many touchdowns for this team. Okay, then you look at that. Now, if it's still close, then you start going into behavior. How did he behave? What was his personality? There should be a category on that. I feel when it came to Terrell Owens, the first thing they did was look at the personality instead of the stats. That's how I
kind of disagree with you on that. But
on that.
Yeah, that would be an interesting. As far as the criteria you're talking about, trying to compare T.O. to Randy Moss. I mean, you're talking about a couple of quirky guys here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that could be a very interesting comparison. And both of them were fantastic stats. But T.O., look, man, you had all the athletic gifts in the world, your personality, and you got that. Oh, I'm innocent. I didn't do it. Bart Simpson type thing going, and to me that killed you, man. I mean, it just did not make you fun to watch.
Now, the last thing that I'm going to say about T.O. is I believe one of the reasons he was hated so much is he was social media before social media was social media.
I don't hate the guy. I don't hate the guy. I'm disappointed in his behaviors. I'm using that word
because the media, some people in the media did. And like I said, he created that brand and he was out in the media before we had Twitter. He was his own Twitter. And the other thing I will say about T.O., anytime he was on the field, he let you know he was on the field.
Well, you sure as hell better have covered him.
I am in no way a follower or a fan of Terrell Owens. All right? I love the fact that when he was playing for San Francisco, he got the shit knocked out of him because he decided to kneel in the center star in Cowboys Stadium. So I loved it. All of a sudden, I'm watching it on TV. He went to the center star once. He was told not to do it again. He did it again. All of a sudden, outside the right side of the TV screen, you just see this cowboy coming bolting in and spearing him into the ground. Was it one of the most beautiful things I've seen in football, even to this day? Yes, it is.
What was more beautiful, him slamming the ball on the star or him just getting drilled?
Oh, drilled. I loved it.
I'm trying to remember that guy. It was George. It was George something, but with the Cowboys. But yeah, that was quite entertaining.
Like I said, I'm in no way a fan of his, and I truly believe he tried to be Deion Sanders without the ability to walk the walk. Deion Sanders talked the talk, and he damn well walked the walk. Terrell Owens, to me, tried to do that, but he couldn't walk the walk the way Deion did. Deion was charismatic, so he'd be doing and throwing lines at you and all that, but he was charismatic. People loved him.
Well, see, that was the difference. And it's a good comparison because they both were very outgoing individuals. But the thing was Dion just knew how to get it by you.
Yes.
Terrell Owens never was able to get it by the press. He always came across as, everyone knew he was cocky. Everyone knew he had an ego.
He was straightforward.
But the fact of the matter is Dion knew how to. Subtle. Dion knew how to sell it, is what it is.
Yes.
Dion knew how to sell the persona, and he could make you think, oh, yeah, I may be this cocky guy, but I still love you.
But he himself, Dion, created another persona.
Right.
He created an
alter ego.
Alter ego. So when he was in front of the media and stuff, there was that. And then there was on the field, Deion Sanders. So it worked for him. And that's one thing I have to say about T.O. I understand what he was trying to do his brand-wise, but he had no idea how to do it. And it bit him in the ass. But that is enough T.O. talk in Hall of Fame. We are now in a new season. But here's the problem, Phil.
Not a problem.
We've got to do it.
Uh-oh.
We've got to go down that infamous rabbit hole that started last year with Mr. Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, God.
I really wish this story would just die already.
This crap again?
But my, here we go again. Thank you, ABBA. For one, we talk about the new policy. So the NFL put in a new policy that says you can either stand out on the field during the National Anthem or you could stay in the locker room. Now, before we talk about what the problems with this policy, there's problems with the NFL also. Because once the NFLPA got a hold of this policy, the NFL comes back out and says, well, we have this policy, but never mind about this policy till we talk to the NFLPA. Well, here's what the policy is, ladies and gentlemen. The policy is shit. Because the policy is not going to do anything different. So you don't have a guy kneeling on the field during the National Anthem. Instead, he's in the back, which causes the same damn thing. Every media member is going to be looking, oh, who stayed in the back? Well, you might as well have him fucking kneeling, because that's all you're doing. It's the same thing.
I think you just have the whole team stay in the back.
So I agree. Now, so even with this new policy, this new bullshit policy, which, you know what, you need to come out and do what the NBA did. NBA says everybody stands. Everybody stands. Period. You hear basketball players talking about, oh, we don't have a policy like the NFL. No, you have the strict policy of, guess what? You getting paid, you working for the NBA, you out there standing. But it's written in the policy so you don't hear the basketball players whining. You don't see them kneeling. Why? Because it's written in stone. You are paid by us. You work for us. You will stand. Now, even with this policy, this window washing policy, as I like to call it, because that's all you're doing is putting a window on something that's broken. There are two people, two teams that have come out and said, if you kneel, you're getting fined. One of them is Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, which he has gone so far to talk about it that the NFL office has come to Jerry Jones and says, we will fine you if you keep talking about the issue. Then there's the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins have also come out and said, you will stand.
Yeah, look how that worked last Thursday.
And it's because the NFL won't grow a set of balls and stand up and do what's right. And you mentioned it. What is right? Go back to pre-2009 before the DOD started paying the NFL money for flyovers and everything and leave the teams in the back. Stop showing the National Anthem on TV except the Super Bowl, because that's all they showed it was the Super Bowl because they had a celebrity do it. So go back to that.
It's a big deal.
End all this crap. Leave the teams in the back. If you got people that did serve, like Villanueva out of Pittsburgh, then they can come to the tunnel. But leave everybody in the back. It's just a celebration in the stadium. One person the other night, Phil, just said, well, why don't they just get rid of it? A period. Don't even play it at the stadium. Well, no, that's wrong. Every country really plays the national anthem before they start a sports event or anything. I mean, that's what we even hear at the Olympics. So, no, you leave it, but just let the stadium enjoy it.
Well, you remember last year when you had you had the team over in London. They knelt for the national anthem, but they stood up for God Save the Queen. And the fact of the matter is, realistically,
didn't we get away from the Queen like
a couple hundred years ago?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, look, the Houston Texans, the Denver Broncos, whoever, whatever pro football team is out there, the fact of the matter is, these are businesses. These are businesses. You are employees. I don't care if you're, hey, you're making several $100,000 or several $1 million. The fact of the matter is, it's a team. Yeah, there may be a union there, but there's nothing in the union contract that says that, you have to be out there for the national anthem. But you are a employee of the team. They're a private business. If the owner says, hey, you need to stand for the national anthem, then guess what? You're representing the company, and
See,
you're expected to do that. And honestly, look, guys, you've kind of made your point with the kneeling and everything. The fact of the matter is, y'all get a lot of free time. Now you look at like Kenny Stills from the Dolphins. One of the guys that knelt for the national anthem. Albert Wilson was the other one who knelt. And Robert Quinn stood with his fist in the air. And that's about all I'm going to give as far as, any kind of acknowledgement. But Kenny Stills, on his free time, goes around and tries to look for social injustice or situations where he can help. Hey, guys, where were you last weekend when you had 76, 78 murders in Chicago, shootings in Chicago, which left, I think, 15 dead. Where were you for that?
Now,
why aren't you doing something in Lansing, Michigan about the friggin' water?
I want
to do something.
I want to piggyback off of that. For one, I don't think the media themselves is showing enough of the players like Kenny Stills and these players that are doing something. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL has started a fund that has over about $173 million in it, and it is for any player that wants to take money and build something or put it back in the community. So the NFL is making steps. The media doesn't want to show it, but they are making steps. And I agree. Players, I don't care. You're getting paid $150 million. You want to be Kirk Cousins, you're getting paid $60 million guaranteed. What the effing ever. It is still an employee-employer relationship. They sign your checks. Yes, you're a celebrity, but guess what? They still sign your checks. If they want to tell you to stand, then you stand. If I were to go to work and try to do some of the stuff these football players are doing, not only would I be canned, I'd be blackballed from the whole industry I'm trying to work in the first place.
Shh, don't say blackball.
Oh, yep, can't be. Can't say that. Can't say that.
Reading Kaepernick.
And side note on them, okay? For one, Eric Reed would still have a job if he didn't jump on that collusion. Kaepernick might even have a job if he... You know what? I'm not even going to go down that hole. I'm just going to say it this way. Ladies and gentlemen, if you get fired from your job and you go and sue your employer, do you think they're going to give you your fucking job back? Would you? And that's all I've got to that's all I've got to say about that.
Put it this way, for you private business owners, if you had an individual working for you who misrepresented your company, how long would they have a job?
Exactly. And for Eric Reed, the fact that the second the offseason started, you're going to jump on this collusion case, well, you're a moron. Again, Kaepernick's already stuck. He's been suing for the past year, so he's already screwed. But you're going to jump in on that before off season even starts? Well, yeah, you're not going to have a job.
It's like starting early for Christmas.
But y'all did what needed to be done. Y'all protested. The league now has programs and funds available to help you in your community. We're still talking about it, and a whole new season's about to start. You did what a protest is supposed to do. You brought attention to the issue. Now stand the fuck up and move on. Along with the same area, same category of conversation, I would like to talk about LeBron James on CNN being interviewed by Don Lemon. It was a good interview. LeBron was talking about the school he was creating, which, ladies and gentlemen, he's not doing this on his own financially. I mean, you're talking about a school with free tuition, free bikes, free laptops, free lunches, free everything, plus a free scholarship if you graduate to the University of Akron. Okay? He's getting major help on this, and he's going in the media saying he's doing this. So that's what I'm going to say.
He being the taxpayers.
Right? He's getting help. But what I wanted to talk about with this interview was the fact that Don Lemon mentioned Donald Trump wanting to meet with LeBron. Well, LeBron looks at Don Lemon and says, "Oh, I won't meet with him. I won't sit in front of him, but I'll sit in front of Barack." Ladies and gentlemen, that is the fucking problem right now. That is the exact fucking problem we're in. You are not willing to sit across from the person that you have grievances with.
Kim did it.
Shut up.
Kim did it.
Kim did it.
Kardashian?
Exactly.
She sucked it up and went and hey, and she got results. She got results.
Exactly.
If you got a viable plan, he's willing to work with you.
Exactly. So I feel that the media is using sports to divide this country. Because the problem is
Don
how
Lemon,
do I say this? Hold on. How do I say this nicely? We have a childish president. We have a president that wants to take all of his grievances out on Twitter. The media knows that. I truly believe that right now,
if you lob him a grapefruit, he's going to hit it.
exactly. I really believe the media is trying to use sports to create a divide.
Well, in the same light as you saying, yeah, we have childish politicians, we do, and we have childish news people.
We do.
I mean, I'm sorry, but Don Lemon basically Huck Finned LeBron into this interview, and it just made them both look like idiots.
Well, I'm going to go into this. One of my favorite classes I took in college was philosophy, and we learned about John Mills and the liberty of thought and discussion. And what it states is, in order to have a right, you've got to have a wrong. In order for you to have a wrong, there's got to be a right. But the problem we're in a society now is nobody wants to hear that other side of you anymore. So how do you know you're right? If you're looking on CNN and saying, "I will not meet with this man," how are you opening any discussion? You disagree with them, then you meet with them and you talk about your grievances. Just like you said, Kim Kardashian, she sucked it up. She went to the White House, they talked, and there was some good that came out of it.
Yeah, she got the woman pardoned that she was trying to get pardoned.
So if you're going to be this person that pays for school, free tuition, all that to try to make things better, then meet with the guy who you say is making things worse.
Yeah, listen to his point of view. You may not agree with everything the man puts out there, but hey, there might be 2, maybe 3, possibly 4 points that he makes that, are are maybe along the lines of what you're going for, and maybe there's some middle ground you can come to out of it.
Absolutely. So, without getting into politics, I'm going to say the media is trying to use sports, and that's what me and Ferocious Phil are here for. It's to give you that aspect, that view of what the media is trying to spin. That's why we call this E4 Sports, sports through the eyes of veterans. Because we're going to give you the stories and the controversies, but we're going to tell you how it really is, or how we really believe it is. In E4 Mafia, for everybody out there that are veterans or serving now, I know some of y'all feel the same way we do. So if you do, hit me up at JR with Sports. Phil, they can hook you up where?
Philip.Polizzi1.
And tell us, if we're wrong, have a conversation with us. Now, don't do what I've been telling people people are doing and just say, you're wrong, you're full of shit, all that. Tell me why you think I'm full of shit.
Back it up.
Let's have a conversation.
Give us some points to go off of.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That wraps up this current episode of E4 Sports. But make sure to listen to us on Saturday, because we will be discussing the new CBA. We'll be talking guaranteed contracts, and we're even going to talk about a few players that refuse to step on the field until they get one of those contracts.
And could there possibly be a lockout?
We will have to wait and see. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ferocious Phil, this is JRei, and you've been listening to E4 Sports. Sports through the eyes of veterans. Hooah!